to add and how to subtract, and we've done scalar multiplication. So scalar multiplication was when we had a single number out front of the matrix and we just multiplied every element times that value. But we can also actually multiply one matrix times another matrix. Okay? And the first thing that has to happen is not all matrices can be multiplied together. They have to be the right dimensions. Okay? So when I look at the dimensions of a matrix, what would you say about matrix A?
2 by 2.
It's a 2 by 2. And what would you say about matrix B? It's also a 2 by 2. Now the fact that they're the same dimension doesn't mean that that's the only way that we can multiply them together. What you want to look at is you want to look at the inside numbers here. So it's rows and columns. So the second number here is the number of columns has to match the number of rows in the second matrix that you're multiplying. These two inside numbers have to be identical in order for me to be able to multiply those two matrices together. And then, if I can do it, if those numbers match, the outside numbers will tell me what my answer is going to look like. So because the outside numbers are both 2's as well, that tells me my answer is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. So we can multiply matrices together that aren't the same. For example, if I wanted to take a 3 by 2 matrix and take it and multiply it times a 2 by 2 matrix, I would still be able to do that because the inside numbers match. So it's possible to do that. And my answer would look like a 3 by 2 matrix. It would be the outside numbers. Does that make sense to you? And when I multiply matrices together, it's a process, and sometimes it's easy to get lost in the process. So it's really helpful to me. I always look at what my answer is going to be before I start. That helps me place the values where they go.
Wait, if it's like a 3 by 2 and 2 by 2, what do you know it's going to be?
Well, first of all, I know I can do it because the inside two numbers are identical. That means I can multiply them. It's the outside two numbers that tell me what my answer is going to look like. So that means my answer is going to be a 3 by 2 matrix. It's going to have 3 rows and it's going to have 2 columns. Okay?
So if the inside numbers aren't the same, then you can't.
Then you can't do it.
What if it's 3 by 2 and a 3 by 2?
Then you can't do it. You cannot multiply two 3 by 2 matrices. If I took a 3 by 2 and I tried to multiply it by a 3 by 2,
Even
those
though they're
numbers,
the same?
yep, those numbers don't match, so we can't do it. Okay, now here's why, because here's the process. If I'm going to multiply A, I'm just going to copy this down again just for my sake. I'm going to take matrix A, which is -2, 1, -1, and 0, and I'm going to multiply it times B, which is -1, -5, 0, and 4. And I know that the answer is going to be a 2 by 2. Here's my answer, which means there's going to be 2 rows and 2 columns. There's going to be 4 total elements, right? Okay, here's how we multiply. Bailey, you're going to want to watch this. Here's how we multiply. We start with a row, take a row out of the first one, and we're going to multiply it times the first column. Okay, so this is row 1, and this is column 1. So look at the two values here. They're both 1s, right? So this is going to produce the element that is in the, I'm just going to use A for the element in the first row, first column. Since I'm doing first row, first column, I'm going to get the answer for the element that goes in the first row, first column. It's going to go right here. And how I do that is I multiply the values. So I'm going to take -2 times -1, and I get a +2, plus I take 1 times 0. I get 0. And 2 plus 0 is 2.
So
you're multiplying the elements and you're adding their products together. So I took the first row times the first column, I multiplied the elements together, and I added them together. Okay?
I'm confused how you got 2.
-2 times -1.
I thought you added them.
That's a +2. You're multiplying. -2 times -1 is 2. And then 1 times 0 is 0. This is what I add together. Okay, now I'm going to, that was the first row, first column, right? Go back to the original matrix here. Now I'm going to stay with the first row, but I'm going to now multiply it times the second column. So this is going to give me the element that's in the first row, second column, because it's the first row times the second column. So that's going to go right here. And you're going to multiply again. So negative 2 times negative 5, that'd be a positive 10 plus 1 times 4. That would be 4. When you add those together, you get 14. I'm going to change colors instead of erasing this. So now I'm going to go to the second row. I'm going to move to the second row now. And I'm going to go back to that first column. So this is going to be the element that goes in the second row, first column. That would be down here. So I'm going to multiply negative 1 times negative 5. That's 5. Plus 0 times 4 is 0. So I'm going to put a 5 here.
So you do the second column first?
Second row.
Second row, second column.
So I've already done the first row, so now I move to the second row and I go back to the first column.
Then why do you do 5?
Why did I do 5?
Yeah.
Ah! Thank you.
So that would just be...
So, negative 1 times 1.
1.
That's 1. And then 0. So it's a 1. Good catch. And then I'm going to go say the second row, but now I got to move to the second column,
It's just the same as the first one.
which is what I just did, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
5 and 0. This is where the 5 goes. There you go. So that's my product. I have a 2 by 2 matrix, and those are the elements that you have. So you take a row times a column, then you add the products. Okay, it goes down here and it asks us to take B times A. So now we're just going to change the order of it and see if that alters the answer. So I'm going to put B first this time, which is negative 1, negative 5, 0, and 4. And I'm going to take it times A, which is negative 2, 1, negative 1, 0. So I start with the first row. Actually, we got to start by seeing if we can do it. Because we can multiply things one way doesn't necessarily guarantee we can go the other way. But since it's still a 2 by 2, and you're taking it times a 2 by 2, those middle numbers do match. So we can do it. And our answer is going to still be a 2 by 2. Now that can change. So you do have to check that out each time you're going to multiply. Just because you can multiply one way doesn't mean you can go the other way. So I'm going to start with a row times a column. So if I multiply this row times this column, what would I get? Negative 1 times negative 2 is?
2 plus 5.
It's 2 plus 5. We get 7. It's already different, right? Okay, so I'm going to stay with that first row, but I'm going to move over here to the second column. So when I multiply, I get negative 1 plus 0. It's going to be a negative 1. Okay, now I'm going to move down to that second row, and I'm going to go back to that first column. So this would be 0 plus a negative 4. Stay with the second row, but go to the second column now. So it'd be 0 plus 0. So we got a different product, which tells us that with matrices, order matters. Okay? When we multiply regular numbers together, the order doesn't matter. We can flip them around to get the same product. Not the case with matrices. So the commutative property with multiplication does not apply to matrices. Okay, flip it over. Got a couple examples here. Okay, so we want to take A times B. A is, what are the dimensions of A?
2 times 3.
How many rows
2.
times how many columns? Okay, and then how about B?
3 times 3.
That's a 3 by 3. So can I do it?
Yes.
Yes, because those inside numbers match. That means we can do it. What's my answer going to look like?
2 by 3.
It's going to be a 2 by 3. So that means it's going to look like this. There's going to be 2 rows, and there's going to be 3 columns. Okay, so we're going to start with the first row, and we're going to take it times the first column, going up and down. Okay, so, and you're going to add these together. So what's 2 times 4? 8 plus.
6
You're going to take 2 times 3 plus
minus 3.
-3. So we got to take 8 plus 6 plus a -3.
11.
That's 11.
I'm confused. Why did you get 3 numbers?
You're taking 2 times the 4, 3 times the 2, -1 times the 3. These are the values you get,
Okay.
and you're adding them up. Okay, we're going to stay with that same row, but we're going to move to the next column. So now we're going to go here. Do the same thing. So 2 times 1, that would be 2. Plus 3 times 7, 21. Plus -1 times -1, it's a +1. So what do I get out of that? 24. And again, that was the first row, second column. So that goes in the first row, second column spot. Okay, now we move to the last column. So if I take the first row times the last column, I get 0 plus 9,
Minus 5.
and then a -5.
4.
Okay, now we're going to move to the second row. We've done the first row, now we go to the second row. We go back to that first column. We start over again. So we're going to say 5 times 4 is 20 plus -4
Plus 12.
plus 12.
28.
Okay, Alex says 28. Okay, that was the first column, so now let's move to the second column. Stay in the second row, but let's move to the second column.
5 minus 14 minus 4.
Okay, so 5 plus a -14 plus a -4.
-13.
-13. And let's do the last column. Zero plus a -6 plus 20. You get 14 out of that.